All right. On Facebook, Rina Sari asked how you get topics for your presentations.
Well, there's certain things that need to go on in the classroom, which are about clarifying the methodology and also clarifying the principles of teaching unplugged. So there's a space in the classroom for actually talking about a little bit about that, which we did, like a bit about the history and how things developed, examples of things. But the content in that is very much generated by what we see and what we experience together, and then we make that the content. So and that in this context here in Devon is to do with everything that's going on around here, to do with the sea, to do with Hawkins ice cream, to do with the musicians who we've met, like today, and using that thing about Dublin, things that come up that you then work out ways of kind of recycling, but in ways which take us a little bit further. So the content is something that actually I'm not bothered about really. The content, the content emerges as a result of creating situations where people experience things, and the more people experience, then the more they're likely to bring into what they do. And you've had a chance for 5 days now to actually experience things yourself without being bussed around by having somebody telling you that that's where you're going, and then telling you about the place that you have been put in a position where you've experienced it, and then you've kind of integrated that into your course product, which is an online journal. But that really has been generated by you, not by us.
So you had an easy job.
I think the other thing to say is that I think it's all about a balance, and I think some of the best moments on the course have been the kind of big shared experiences, and I think it's always important to remember as we talk about dissolving the distinction between the classroom and the outside world. It's always important to remember that there is tremendous potential in the classroom as a space for sharing, and that sometimes it's what happens when people bring back their experiences and share them as a group, that this wonderful kind of energy manifests itself, and that's where we can kind of get close to flow, the mythical state of flow in the classroom, and you kind of don't know it until you're in it. But sometimes it's a product of if all the people involved in something being together, and the point is to make the absolute most of that time, so not to do little sort of basically research stuff inside the classroom, get the research stuff done outside the classroom, and then come together to do the kind of the more intense activity, which is the basic idea behind the flipped classroom, which I think is, we've been doing a kind of unplugged flipped classroom over the past few weeks. But I think it's always important to remember that it's a wonderful thing to share time and space with a group of people over time. That's something that teachers and learners can do, and the classroom is kind of quite a useful place to do that. In the same way that I've been saying, we must never forget that the physical book is a fantastic interactive artifact, and we shouldn't imagine that because we can encounter text in different ways using wonderful new technologies, which I love as much as anyone else, we shouldn't forget what makes a book interactive. What makes a book interactive is the relationship between our reading of that book and the other books we've read, between what the author has put into that text and the references that are being made explicitly or implicitly to other texts. It's the intertextuality. And I guess you could relate that to the way we relate to each other, to a sort of interpersonality or something. And so it's almost by sharing our own personalities and experience in a deep way, and in a way, in an environment that's full of trust, as the midges of an English August dusk start to attack me, that we get into flow, and that we achieve a kind of interpersonality where we're genuinely sharing on a level which is incredibly sort of restorative and satisfying.
Well, now I feel the question from Gael Yuli from Hungary has been partly answered. That is, which is more important regarding the success of the course? What happens inside, or what happens outside the classroom?
I think it's how you draw the threads together. I think it's how you make use of the classroom time to bring together the experiences that people have had and to make sense of that in the context of the training you're doing and the principles and the sort of theoretical roots that you're exploring together. So I think they can't be separated, and in fact that's probably one of the purposes of unplugged teaching is to, in drawing on our lives and experience and existing knowledge when we teach and learn, we sort of separate what is a sort of slightly false distinction between inside the classroom and outside, because actually if we're bringing our lives and sharing them, then that can be done inside and outside. But as I've just said, a classroom is kind of a handy space because it can be quiet. You can use a projector and look at some stuff online if you want to. The classroom isn't a bad thing.
Okay, thanks. Right. As for this specific course this year, which is
2012?
Oh yeah. This is the first Soul Devon Unplugged course. Have you had magic moments during the course?
Well, for me, there have been a number of moments. I think maybe in the pub, the fact that we were in the pub to start off with, seeing people eating breakfast and knocking back lagers at 11 o'clock in the morning and training in that context, that was probably before 11, that was quite different. But handing out £600 to people in groups and basically saying get on with it in envelopes, that's something in my experience I've never experienced that on a course where a school has actually given that degree of responsibility to course participants. And actually you forming the groups was great, because when people were mingling, I was kind of eavesdropping a little bit, and some people were saying, we can't do this, and and it was just interesting to see how it all happened, and people did form groups and they did things. So for me that was a moment of giving away power and responsibility, which was really good. And then of course seeing the joy on people's faces in the sea. Those five, including yourself, on last Sunday, who, as a result of going to the Surf Museum, thinking about it, actually, being in the sea, that this is one of the most beautiful parts of Britain, and to actually feel the water and the waves against your body, and to actually, enjoy all of that. So that for me, watching you enjoy all of that was a very special moment for me. What about you, Luke?
Yeah. Magic moments for me?
Yeah.
It's been great to see people's reaction to the landscape. I was really looking forward to seeing the sea here and the coast, and so seeing the surf and that wild beach at Croyd on the first day, and walking through the Valley of the Rocks and the footsteps of Wordsworth and Coleridge and all those things, and seeing people's reactions and the kind of wow factor was wonderful, and I loved that. And just, it's great when people get something from day one and they're energized and excited. And there were people like that on this course, and that's fantastic, and it's really important to the energy levels at the start. But in a way, the most exciting thing for me, maybe for lots of educators in different contexts, is when somebody who hasn't got something, or who is resisting something, or who has big questions, and who may feel quite emotional about those questions, comes in one morning or after lunch and says, you know what, I'm enjoying it, I've got it. And sometimes the body language changes, the sort of, the face relaxes, and suddenly, instead of frowns and uncertainty, you have smiles, and that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling as a trainer and as a teacher. So I can remember many moments like that. They were great.
Yeah, and I mean, actually training at the estuary at Appledore, and you know, you're looking out and you're seeing the confluence of the rivers, you know, the Tor and the Torridge, and then we're there, and Luke has got text which is extracted from Appledore, talking about his ancestors, and he really wants to go out and find out about where his ancestors are. It's such a real thing, and we've got glass windows where we're looking at boats and the rivers, and then I'm talking about confluence and a confluent speaker, not just being about speaking skills but listening skills, and to have out there the ocean and the estuary to actually describe that, because it's there, you know. It's just a fantastic feeling, and I'd love to do something in Appledore again. So that was a magic moment, and of course the sunset.
The sunset was,
wasn't it,
very special in Appledore. Yeah, that was beautiful, and it was after, you know, it was like a sort of metaphor for people gradually getting the idea of the course and the group getting stronger. And you know, this was a rainy old day, and we'd had bumpy bus rides and eaten sandwiches in strange places, and then suddenly there was this kind of heavenly evening where the sky cleared and it was fresh, and the sunset was as beautiful as any I've ever seen. So that was wonderful. That was wonderful to share it with people as well.
Yeah.